Well, it is another week of Find the Fairway live here, and this might be the funnest one that we're going to have all year. And I'm not just saying that because I want to hype up the show. Claire Rogers from golf.com. If you don't follow her on Twitter, you're missing out because she is a genius mind for a tour that's trying to build their image for non-fans, and everything that comes out of Claire's mouth is gold. She's going to join us here in a second. We're going to talk about her life inside the ropes on the PGA Tour, back-to-back elevated events. And if you saw on Claire's social, she was all within the thick of everything, talking to the pros, getting all the insight, what worked, what didn't, what's the future like for all that kind of stuff. And of course, in the future of these elevated events, what can we expect from all these big players and of course all the live controversy. And joining us now on the show, Claire Rogers, golf.com. You're a superstar in my mind, Claire, for one reason, because you have this uncanny ability that 99% of us don't have. I'm one of them. Just to take your inner thoughts and put them in hilarity on social media that everybody enjoys.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of fun on Twitter. I think, I just grew up playing golf, so I'm very comfortable with my knowledge of it. I don't think I could talk about pretty much anything else for a living or tweet about anything else as part of my job, but I have a lot of fun with it. And it's gotten better each year because I think, I learn more. I'm on site at events more, and I'm able to just kind of connect with players, with caddies, with other media members more. So we have a lot of fun out there.
I'm a golf nerd. I can tell you're a golf nerd. That's great. I love it. How did you go you're from Rhode Island, you told me, and now all of a sudden you're working at golf.com. You've got so many people waiting to see what you have to say on social media. You're inside the ropes. How did this girl from the Northeast end up doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it brief.
We got all the time in the world.
I grew up playing golf, like junior golf in Rhode Island. My parents belonged to a course where kids could play every Tuesday morning, and I got really into it. I wasn't particularly good at it, but I really liked the social aspect of it. And we had this event every summer at the course called the Northeast Amateur. If we're going to talk about elevated events later, it's kind of an elevated amateur event. So these players, yeah, I wasn't playing in it, but it was college players or the highest ranked amateurs in the world would come and play in this event at the course that my parents played at. So instead of them, a 20-year-old kid staying at a hotel for the week, they would stay with members' families, and we would host golfers every year for a week, starting when I was heading into sixth grade. It was in June. Mm-hmm. And the first guy we ever hosted was Dustin Johnson. So we got very lucky. And we've had a couple of people that end up on the PGA Tour. And it just I was interested less in the actual what they're shooting aspect and more kind of on the storylines of how did they go from this 18-year-old kid who, was playing golf, but also taking geometry class in college into, the best in the world. And that kind of off the course storyline really appealed to me. So I, finished volunteering at that throughout high school, but I started interning at Golf Digest. I just emailed. I remember I didn't know who to email. So I just guessed it would be first name, last name at golfdigest.com or first name dot last name at golfdigest.com.
Everybody's been there, and you were right. You didn't get the return email that said your message was not sent, so that worked out for you.
And from there, I've just been really lucky. I think everyone was nice to me, and they gave me a chance, and they'd hear me out, maybe even when they probably shouldn't have, because I was an 18-year-old girl just trying to ask, hey, can I work for you? And I was too young to be doing that, but they let me intern for them when I was going into junior year of college and senior year of college, which ended up leading to a full-time job there in social media, where I kind of learned the ropes and got to work under some really talented people. And then golf.com, I ended up moving there after 2 years because I wanted to be traveling more, and there was just an opportunity to be doing it at golf.com. So that's where we are now.
How long have you been in your current role at golf.com?
Just over 2 years.
Just over 2 years. So you're right in the thick of the very beginning of what we're now calling the elevated events on the PGA Tour. Back-to-back ones that you went to the last 2 weeks in Phoenix and then in LA. So much hype. I'm sure the tour was really probably nervous about how the competition would be. Would the stars rise to the top? it went as well as they possibly could have imagined. When you were inside there, and I saw you all over the place inside the ropes, what was your impression about the vibe from the crowd, how the players received it, all of it?
I want to say it felt major, but I don't mean it felt like a major. It just felt very important. The excitement, especially at Waste Management, I had never been there
Hmm.
before, so the energy is like, a frat party on steroids, kind of. There was a lot of young people, which is exciting to see because I think a lot of times we think of golf and we think of 50, 60-year-old men, which obviously that's totally fine, but this brought in another demographic. My sister, who lives in Phoenix, who had never been to a golf tournament, a professional golf tournament before, came and had the best day ever. So that was cool in that regard. And then, the 16th hole, designated or elevated event or not, that's gonna feel big. And it carried over to Genesis, which
Hmm.
had, it was much calmer than Waste Management, but there was still that special feel to it because Riviera is such a beautiful golf course. Tiger's the host. It just kind of feels fancy in a way. Um, so I thought it was 2 really good weeks. And when you have the best players in the world at these events, which
Hmm.
they're now definitely going to have because they have to play in these events, the best are going to rise over time, right? And that's kind of what we saw with Scotty Scheffler winning 2 weeks ago, and then John Rahm winning yesterday or Sunday. So
Do you think there's going to be any concern about a drop off in the future with how good these first two have been? And then, I mean, what if it's not the top five players in the world competing? What if it's random Joes who, outside of being a golf fan, people may not have any idea who they are? Let's say it's the 95th ranked player in the world against the 75th ranked player in the world who's competing, you know, in 2 weeks at the Arnold Palmer or maybe even at the Players. Do you think the tour cares about that, or that they're going to get enough sample size that one, they're keeping their players happy? That's the number one goal, I would have to assume. And two, if they can just get random top players to be stars in these events, that's also a win too. I just want to get your thoughts on, what if they don't live up to the hype, the elevated events of the next handful of months?
right, I think the majority of the time when you have the best players in the world playing, one of the best players in the world is going to come out on top. But I do also think that the tour does a really good job of highlighting, hey, we might not know who this player is, but he has a really interesting story and
Mm-hmm.
his family is here this week and he did this interesting thing in college and he was this person's teammate who might have a story about him. I think they're really good at building a story on social media for the week to get people excited and familiar with the player. And I'm even thinking of the Netflix series where maybe a lot of people didn't know who Joel Damon is leading into it, and now they're a fan. And it just kind of shows how quickly that switch can happen when you learn a little bit more about a player and what makes them tick and maybe about their history, that there's an opportunity for people to get really excited about someone who's never won on a big stage before to be able to do it for the first time. And that's just a special story in itself. When someone gets their first PGA Tour win, it's emotional for them in a level that it might not be when you've done it 10 times.
You mentioned Full Swing, so we'll talk about that next. Do you think it's good for non fans? Are they intrigued? I know you have your own stories personally of people in your life who are not golf fans and what they're watching. I mean, the creators said it was good, not great. To me, I feel like they probably should have done less stars. Some of the stars were pretty good. Less stars and more guys who aren't flying private to practice rounds, and guys who, if they don't make the cut, they don't care because they have $50 million in their bank account. More guys ranked 100 in the world, and not the guy who, oh, I lost this week, no big deal. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so we write this thing on golf.com every week called Tour Confidential, and we answer questions, and someone asked, what would you like to see in season 2? This was just on Sunday, and I
Mm-hmm.
said exactly what you're saying. I want to see someone who it's going to change their life making a cut or not. It's stressful. I was flying from Phoenix to LA, and there were a handful of tour players on the same flight as me, waiting an
Mm-hmm.
oversized baggage claim.
And it
The
wasn't
less
Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas.
No, no. And it's just the less glamorous side. But to me, that's the really interesting stuff. And players will say, Tony Finau said on his episode, I haven't always had the ability to
Exactly.
have my family out here
Mm-hmm.
because I was living out of a car. That stuff is really interesting too. And I really do hope we see that in season 2. I think season 1, it was fun. Like we got to see the big names, people that I've been telling my friends about for years because they've been in the mix for years, but my friends who don't follow golf didn't know anything about them. So I think in that way, I'm selfishly happy because now I can say, okay, you know that guy from the show who did this? That's who's in contention this week. So I think they did pretty well. I've only seen the first 6 episodes. I'm watching the next 2 later this week. So
I'm actually on 5 as well.
Okay. So yeah, I think they did a good job with it, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do from here for sure.
Like, let's say somebody in your life says, who's that Joe Exotic guy looking guy? And you're very confused. And I got this pulled up right here and you can see it, right? Tell me about the hilarity of what your sister is doing with watching this series. And everybody, and I say everybody who follows you on Twitter is waiting for your sister's recap of every single episode of Full Swing.
Okay, so before I get into this, there's one story I have about my sister Ellen that kind of encapsulates the biggest difference in the two of us. So in 2018, the US Open was at Shinnecock. My dad was taking my sister and I to New York for the weekend, New York City. And he told her, we're going to go shopping in New York, but there's going to be a day that Claire and I are going to the US Open.
And she's a teenager. She's like, what, 18?
At that time. Okay. Yes. Now she's 23. And what he said to me was, we're going to go to Shinnecock and have a great day at the US Open, but there's going to be a day that Ellen and I are going shopping in New York. So we are different. He played the golf to me. He played the shopping to her, but she spent so much time listening to my family talk about golf. So she has absorbed some information. She already knew what LIV was. She didn't know the nitty gritty of it, but she had some information. She knows about Jordan Spieth. She knows about Paulina Gretzky. The big highlight stuff. But she was kind of like, should I watch it? And I said, yeah, I think you're going to like it. Just give it a chance. It's, you get to see a different aspect. You like, reality TV. There are some reality TV moments. You have Brooks Koepka and Dennis Sims at home. So she was watching it and she texted me saying, I have so many thoughts. I'm just going to write them down and we can discuss after.
And I've got these on the screen here on the right. I put up some of my favorites there, by the way.
Yes. So she is hilarious and just her observations are funny. My coworker Dylan, she's grown to love through this whole thing. So
she has a crush on Dylan is what it sounds like. I mean, she wants Dylan's number. Let's be honest.
We have a group text and she'll be like, okay, what were you thinking here? Because she has a lot of respect for people who do what he does. He's very smart. He's writing. But her thoughts are just funny. The Joe Exotic thing, I had no idea who she was talking about until I tweeted it out.
They wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
You were smart. You're savvy. That's what I was talking about at the beginning. You knew exactly who she was talking about, and you put it out there. And it's like, oh, Cam Smith.
Well, it took a minute. When I first posted it, I was like, I have no idea who she's thinking of. And then it kind of came to me. I was like, who has long hair? And that was kind of, reductive reasoning. We got to that. So.
I'm really glad that she is able to do the outsider perspective, so to speak, on something like that, because that's what their goal is. Netflix goal and the PGA Tour's goal is to get somebody like her to look at that, and hopefully, like you said in season 2, it's going to be players who are less known, and the emotions come out. If they don't make it, then they're not playing, maybe even for the rest of their life. So I'm glad that we have fans like that who are seeing that. All right, Claire, I want to get to the fun stuff here. Your personality got me thinking about what would be a fun game to play with Claire Rogers from golf.com, and it would be a game of Would You Rather. So I'm going to give you 4 Would You Rathers. Here is your first one, both based along Patrick Reed. Would you rather be Patrick Reed's attorney in court, argue for him in all of his defamation lawsuits against everybody, or adamantly and vehemently defend Patrick Reed in a rules controversy, all of his rules controversies, and you're the only eyewitness on the scene? Would you rather?
I'd rather be the only eyewitness on the scene, and I'll explain why. Well, yeah, because the defamation lawsuits, I would just not be able to keep up with all of them. And
you wouldn't be able to keep a straight face.
Yeah, there'd just be too much going on. And also, don't you have to, I guess you can talk about lawsuits, but aren't you not allowed to talk about during it? I don't know. I would just want to tell everyone I knew what was going on behind the scenes. The rules controversy thing would be interesting because I don't know, I know the rules of golf, but I don't know the nitty gritty that well. It always has to be explained to me when one of this happens.
You're gonna plead Ignorance.
Yeah, I would just be like, here's what I saw. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Take that information and do what you will. It would be more of just me recounting what I saw rather than he's right or he's wrong.
But here's the deal, though. You have to adamantly do it, convincingly. Show conviction that you... Because let's face it, if Patrick Reed's in a rules controversy, we all know he cheated. I mean, when has he not cheated in a rules controversy? I digress. To me, that's why I think I would pick attorney. Because morally, I know I am flat out lying if I'm lobbying for Patrick Reed when he cheated. Oh, your ball went in this tree? No, I'm pretty sure it went in the tree 20 yards that way. You're lying. If you're his lawyer, you're technically not lying. You're out of your mind, idiotic, if you think that you want to win a $400 million lawsuit because somebody said mean things about you for taking money. For me, it's just, moral high ground. I would probably be the lawyer, but I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face.
Yeah, I like your explanation there. I think I would still stick with the other one because also he might unblock me on Twitter if I...
Oh, so that's ulterior motives.
Oh, yes, exactly.
All right, the next one is based off of Ian Poulter's episode on Full Swing. Would you rather do a solo trip on a private jet with Ian Poulter doing a PowerPoint presentation on why he sucks at golf and was never really that good? You have an 8-hour flight to London, say, talking about that and that only? Or would you rather be Sergio Garcia's publicist every time he has a whiny meltdown or does something stupid and the media want to quote and they want to hear from him?
I would rather be Sergio's publicist because
too.
I think I'm good at getting myself out of trouble. So I think I could maybe help him get out of trouble.
Ian Poulter's, I mean, he's a nice family man, so to speak. Say what you want about it. He still scares me. I mean,
yeah.
Even aside from those crazy looks at the Ryder Cup that he gives, and it's just like those soul-crushing eyes that you don't want to cross him within the inch of your life. But something about the guy scares me. I wouldn't want to sit on a plane with him for 8 hours.
No.
And tell him why he's not good at golf again. I mean, you could talk for 8 hours about why he's not good at golf, and he's not. I wouldn't want to do that, though.
Yeah, I would take a private jet ride with him, but I wouldn't want to do that part, so.
All right, coming up next, would you rather sit in place for Greg Norman at his performance reviews with his Saudi overlords, which means you are taking Greg Norman's place when they are reviewing Greg Norman's work? Why didn't you get more top 20 players? Why are we giving you $20 billion when you haven't made any money, et cetera, et cetera? Or you, as Claire Rogers, be forced to cover only live for the rest of your career, and it's specifically the Cleeks Golf Club. You want me to tell you who's on the Cleeks?
Yeah, I don't even know who's on it.
Martin Keimer is their captain. Richard Bland, who is incredibly bland. Graham McDowell. And Bernd Wiesberg. You can only cover them for the rest of your life. Those four guys on that team. Or would you rather sit in place for Greg?
Sit in place for Greg because there's so many parts of the game that I love that I wouldn't want to give up. I've gotten really into, college amateur golf. I like watching Nelly Korda go down, the stretch somewhere. I have so much fun doing that, as well as the PGA Tour, that I would not want to give that up. I feel like I was missing out on way too much to just cover such a small area of the game. And I don't know, I'm kind of nosy. I would like to see what they had to say about his performance.
I guess you can maybe be fearful for your life when you're in that meeting with whatever Saudi person is Greg Norman's boss. But hey, if you get out of there, you don't have to cover the Cleeks. So I guess that's the best thing. Okay, I need you to give me some context on this one. I over-embellished the facts on this because I saw you mention on social media. Would you rather forget to book a hotel in LA, and here's where I embellish, and not have a place to stay all week for the Genesis Invitational? You have no place to stay. You're in your car or bust. Or would you rather lose your wallet in Phoenix, and I embellish here, and not have an ID or money the entire week for a giant party scene in Phoenix? Tell us why this is funny to you.
This is funny. For people who don't know, something always goes wrong when I travel. I lost my wallet. Well, I carry like a crossbody bag on the course, and I misplaced it, and I went home for the night to our Airbnb, and I couldn't find it. And then the next day I couldn't find it. Turns out I left it under the table at the media center, but there were black tablecloths over it, and it's a black bag, so I totally missed it. But I was missing for 24 hours. I got to the Genesis Invitational, and luckily I was only staying there for a night before our Airbnb, but I had booked it for the following weekend instead of that one. Luckily they had a room for me, but for a moment the lady was like, "We're pretty full. I don't know if you're going to be in luck here." And it was just annoying because I had so many bags. I really didn't want to have to go somewhere else, but this would have been for the whole week. So I am going with lose my wallet and not have an ID or money. And here's why.
What are you going to do? Stay in your car? That's your own
Yeah,
option.
exactly. Also, when I'm at a tour event, we're not really going out, like partying or anything. We are working until we're at the media center until 7:30, and then, we'll go get dinner somewhere and then go do some more writing and then go to bed. So there's not an opportunity. It's not like I'm at the Waste Management as a fan who's flown in to do all, the partying situation. So I wouldn't technically need my ID. And then money-wise, I would just tell my coworkers, "Listen, I'll Venmo you back." And they have food in the media center, so I might not even need to buy food.
Yeah, you can't do the no place to stay in LA option. That's just not one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up what you guys do on a daily basis, because it's easy for fans to look at it and say, "Oh man, that person has a cush job. Look how easy they have it. Oh, you can just sit there and you get to watch Tiger and ask him questions and do this and take pictures of your food." I mean, I work in TV. I get it. I know what you guys do. I know why you don't go out. You're exhausted. So tell me what a day is like when you get to the course, what you're doing during the day. Because, I mean, you're writing, you're doing a bunch of stuff. You have deadlines. You have everything you got to do, and then you got to go do it 4 straight days.
Yes. And it's actually usually 6 straight days, because we'll go to the course on Monday and then we're there till Sunday. So we will, let's see. It depends on the day, but usually we try and get there early, especially if a big name is going off early. So we'll get to the course 7:30 maybe, which usually means getting up 5:36, leaving by 6:45, 7. Get to the course. We check in really with people who are not on site and say, "Here's what we're trying to do for the day. Here are our goals. Here's what we're trying to see. We're planning on writing about that." Maybe we have a meeting or two to attend via Zoom from the media center, just to talk with, the golf.com people to see what's going on with the whole site. Then I like to go get a feel of the course. Again, this does sound glamorous, and it is great. I love my job. There's a reason I do this. But I kind of will say, what do I want to do this week? I want to see this player play, this player play. I want to see this person on the range. I have some questions that I want to ask, because I write, it's called the Rogers Report every week, more just kind of fun, lighthearted observations of what I saw. I try and always have at least 4 or 5 things that I can write 1 to 2 paragraphs on in this. So I go out with my phone, I'm taking notes, I'm trying to, I want to see this person on this hole. I want to make sure I'm, at the Waste Management. The 16th hole is huge, but I want to be back in the media center when this person is answering questions. So it's kind of scheduling out.
And they're all happening at the same time. I know how that goes.
Exactly. So there's a million places you want to be at once. So a lot of times the first half of the day is I do social media for golf.com as well. So I'll be scheduling out articles that came out the night before, talking with our other social media employees, Darren, who is awesome. And I'll say, I'm thinking, this person's doing a press conference. Maybe we make a graphic of what they say. We'll have that to go out later. So that gets me to maybe 9:30, 10. I've had breakfast in the media center. Then I go out and just kind of get to take it all in. I experience it. I'm taking notes. I'll come back in and get lunch. And then usually mid-afternoon is when I'll start writing, and I'll, get back in the media center, open up a few things, check Getty Images, check Twitter to see what videos have come out. The thing that's hard about being on site is you're not watching the broadcast. So
exactly. You have to figure out what's going on your own.
Yes, you're missing a lot.
You're missing everything.
If you want to follow one player, you're missing 99% of the field if something crazy happens. So
you're
I try to get caught up
on
that
the entire time, probably.
Yes, exactly. So then, maybe 3:34, I start writing, and we're in there till 6 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock, and then we'll go get dinner with our team. Then, it gets you to 8:39, go back to the house. My eyes are not staying open at this point. I'm exhausted. Probably, send over my story for someone to edit, reread it over, schedule the stuff that didn't go out on social. More articles are getting published throughout the day. Schedule those out, schedule the next morning out, and then go to bed around. I like to be in bed by 10 at the latest. Sometimes it's closer to 11 or 12.
So you have no
and then you do it
time
all
to
the next
wind
day.
down you're looking at a 16-hour day from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and you're doing that 6 times.
Yeah, they're long days. I mean, sometimes we'll say, you know what, we're going to go to the course at 9 instead. And, some of my coworkers will go for a run. I'll go for a walk or something, FaceTime my family, check in. But it is very busy. And sometimes there are events. So we'll have, at the Waste Management, there was a premiere party for Full Swing. So we went to that. There was an Adidas party last week that I went to, and it was really fun. And it's good, it lets you see people. But sometimes it's hard to make sure you get there because there's a million other things going on. But it is really fun when you get to hang out with other people on the road too. We'll try and maybe do dinner with some of the PGA Tour employees or Golf Channel employees. There's just a lot of people on the road together. So
have you had different experiences with one player when maybe you caught them on a bad day and they were in a bad mood and they didn't treat you very well, and then all of a sudden you turned around and the next day they were really nice and you say, whoa, where did that come from? Are there a lot of players that are like that, or does everybody pretty much have their moniker?
I don't know. I think I haven't been on the road enough. Well, I've been on the road a lot, but it's been more recently that I've gotten to know the players. And I think, if someone's had a bad round, I'm not going up and saying, hey, how's it going? So I've kind of figured that out. It's better to just keep an arm's length. And so I haven't really had, I would say, any bad interactions with anyone. I've gotten really lucky too. Mark Williams has been the PGA Tour comms person who is in the press conferences calling on people to ask, and he is the best. He makes sure that if I have a question, I get to ask it, which I really appreciate. So I've been very, it's funny because now that you bring that up, I'm like, wow, I'm really lucky that hasn't happened, but I've never really thought of it that way. But yeah, I haven't had any highly negative interactions with anyone.
And by the way, for everyone out there, we talk about how fun and lighthearted Claire is. She actually was the one who asked Tiger Woods the tampon question. And I don't know, do you think somebody would have asked him?
I don't know. It was interesting. I was the only woman in the presser area. And it wasn't because I was mad at him or anything. I just thought everyone's talking about this and it needs to be put. You're not going to ignore the biggest story. That was the biggest story no matter what side you're on. Yeah. And it allowed him to say something about it and then we could move on. And we got to focus on the rest of the week, which I don't think anyone wanted that to be the whole story of the week because there's a million other things going on.
And most people moved on. So great job doing that, Claire.
Thank you.
I don't know who would have asked that. We were talking about phones. Are you going to the Masters? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yet.
Do you know if media members can take a phone in? Because the general,
they can bring a phone.
They can.
But they can't take it out on the course. So you have it in the media center.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah. So not a huge difference than anything else. But it'll be, if I am there, I don't know if I am, I'll bring out a notepad to the course instead of my phone.
Then you're really going to struggle to find your storylines when you don't have your phone attached to your
Yeah, right.
Hey, before I let you go, final exercise here. We're talking about some of the people you work with in the media room, and I can just imagine there's dozens of you. Everyone's doing a different kind of grind depending on what the day is. So I can assume you've gotten to know a lot of these people pretty well. So final exercise here, Claire. I need you to pick one media. I gave you all 4 of these at once so you can think about who you would choose. Only one person for each. Pick a PGA Tour media member to take to a Hannah Montana concert because I know you're a big fan.
Yes.
I know you're a Taylor Swift fan too. I sound like I'm a stalker to you, but I'm really not.
I was just doing my research. All I do is talk about it. So
who would be the best subject of a Taylor Swift song? Who would lobby for you best during a lecture from Jay Monahan, the commissioner? Say he was upset with something you did or said, and he said, hey, come into the principal's office. I want to talk to you. And you got to have somebody come with you to say, well, Claire didn't mean to do that, who would stand up for you and do a very eloquent job of doing that. And then finally, to play a match, not win a match, to play a match against Tiger Woods and Justin Thomas to talk the most trash because you know it's going to happen on the other side. So those four different people, I'll give you as much time in the world. You can sound it out loud and think out loud, whatever you need to do.
Okay. Hannah Montana concert, I would bring Hallie Ledbetter.
Okay.
I don't know if she likes Hannah Montana, but we have a lot of fun together, and we both will get really excited about things that aren't, what a lot of maybe the rest of media would get excited about. So I think even if she doesn't like Hannah Montana, she would get into it for my sake. Yes. To be the best subject of a Taylor Swift song.
It doesn't need to be like a boy who broke her heart or like a Dylan and Ellen kind of thing. Just like fascinating character who would be like a just gold for Taylor Swift to just go off and write whatever she wanted in her creative mind.
Doug Ferguson, and I'm saying this because he is at I don't want to say every event, but he's at a lot of events. I think he's probably the most well-seasoned veteran in the media center, so he probably has a ton of amazing stories. And he tells me stories all the time about things that have happened with players and stuff like that. So I just think he probably has the most information and experience that a person could make a song about.
Number 3, lobby for you when you go to the principal's office and Jay Monahan's office.
I have 2 for this. My coworkers, Dylan DeChair and Sean Zock, just because I think they know me better than anyone else in the media center. And they know that when I am getting lectured, I tend to crumble, and they would be able to just kind of rise to the occasion.
Wait. What do you mean crumble? Like what's your definition of that?
I just lose the ability to speak up for myself, and I get very nervous when I'm getting yelled at.
Okay, so you just shut down and you say, I'm sorry, even though if you didn't think you did nothing wrong.
Yes, I would apologize profusely.
So
I went to Catholic school growing up,
I did too. They would help you be yourself and speak your mind, is what you're saying.
I would really need them you know what? I was going to say I would want them to speak on my behalf, but they would encourage me to speak up for myself, which is what I would need in that moment. And
then who's the trash talker? Who just has the one-liners who you just had no idea where that came from?
I think. Eamon Lynch.
Okay. From Golf Channel.
Yeah, we haven't spent that much time together, but I've been around him when he has a good one-liner, and he's very quick. So I think I could lean on him to be like funny, and he's really funny. So it's not like he's hurting anyone's feelings. He's just kind of getting into it with him. And you see him and Brandl's Twitter, they're back and forth stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly
and by
what
the
I would
way,
need.
it sounds like they hate each other, but they don't.
No, exactly. They're like best friends.
Yeah, you need context for that. Hey, Claire, this was fun. I'm glad you did this. I like to end every show just by basically people know who you are, but I just want to put it up there anyway. Claire Rogers on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm sure you already have everyone following you who watches this show anyway. You mentioned the Rogers Report on golf.com. Great insight every single week on the PGA Tour, whether you're there or not, right?
Yeah.
And then
I do it every week, yeah.
Yeah, and then finally, I know you're doing this thing with Shane Bacon right now, and it's fun to watch the full swing tonight with Shane Bacon on Scratch. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, it's really fun. We are recapping every Netflix episode one by one. So we'll record one episode, we kind of debrief it, talk about our thoughts, and then we have specific questions that we ask every time. Who's the winner of the episode, the loser, favorite moment, something you learned, something you changed your mind on, and then what you think golf fans can get out of it. So we end up having some pretty good conversations about it.
Well, Claire, I really mean this when I say you need to hear everyone say grow the game. How can we grow the game? I really think stuff that people like you do on social media does as much as anybody else does, just to bring lightheartedness and fun and make people smile. I mean, people want to be entertained, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you're doing a great job with that, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next time on Find the Fairway Live.